Welcome everybody to Haven of Horror. I'm Subject 879. We've got Doolittle back with us again, and of course, TheDayGhost. Good to see you, buddy.
How's it
Uh,
going, guys?
Not too bad. We just recorded our 28 days later review, of course. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. I did not get a chance to see 28 Days Later, but I'm sure it's great.
Here to talk about, of course, the original Scream. Can you guys believe it's been 25 years?
Yes, but only because I was like 12 when I saw Scream for the first time. So, like, for me, it had already been out for a long time.
I wasn't even born, so
Yeah.
Damn, y'all making me feel old. Well, I don't know where it is, but I got my steelbook in today for the 25th anniversary. If I find it, I'll
Nice.
Yeah,
show it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I don't own any of these movies, so I should work on that.
Very hard to find
I have the
unless
Hmm.
you settle for the
VHSs.
like crappy, $5 Blu-rays that look
Oh,
like shit. So Austin, since you are this is the main review you're doing tonight, I'm gonna start with you. Tell us about Scream and just kind of your thoughts on this movie.
Do I have to make my description for Scream meta?
Yes.
Yeah. Um, no, Scream is just like a movie about horror films and just it's a satire on the slasher genre, and especially it came out at a time where the slashers kind of started very big and then kind of all went to shit slowly over time. So yeah,
They
it
kind
just
of
did
save
that.
that genre.
Yeah, it both parodies slashers and kind of boils it down and goes back to basics and brings back Wes Craven, who didn't really want to do it because he didn't want to do more horror, but they convinced him. And then he did three more.
And was gonna
yeah.
do more.
Well, yeah, he was gonna do 5 and 6 when 4 came out.
Yeah. So Austin, I guess to start at the beginning, because like you said, this movie very much satires slashers, but also brings them back to the basics because a lot of slashers got too big, too quick. We had to fill in every inch of backstory we could for characters that didn't need a backstory. Looking at you, Freddy's dead, and every Michael Myers sequel ever. Uh,
I think starting with 3, every Nightmare film after that does something with his backstory. No.
no, only 3, 5, and 6.
Oh, okay. See, 4 and 5 are the same movie in my head. No.
Me too. Um,
Yeah.
so this was obviously a very nice change, and we didn't really, other than maybe like obviously the Freddy films and like Friday Six, a lot of slashers didn't have any kind of humor to them, and arguably almost none of them were as well written as this movie. Um, but I got sidetracked from my original question because I don't think we've ever had just a talk about this. How do you feel overall about the slasher genre in terms of where you rank it in horror subgenres?
I don't really know how I rank subgenres of horror, to be honest, but I don't know. I like slashers. Like, and obviously, it's movie for movie, but I mean, that's just any genre, really.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've never actually like stopped and been like, okay, how would I rank different subgenres of horror?
Okay, that
I
might be a
feel
fun
like
video.
slashers are probably what I watch the most, question mark.
Hey, me too. So, like for me, slashers are probably my number one because we talk about this, but you know me, I'm a big fan of Jason, Freddy, Leatherface, kind of Michael. But we'll get into that tomorrow. So, Doolittle, how do you feel
Mm.
about the slasher genre in ranking of their subgenres?
uh, I feel like slasher genre is a genre I've come to appreciate more throughout like recent years. Like, well, kind of like this year and like last year, kind of going through revisiting a lot of these movies and kind of understanding and appreciating them for what they are and kind of what they're trying to do, because sometimes like you either have like slashers that are like really fun, like popcorn flicks where, you know, you root for Jason in the same way you root for Godzilla, where it's just this unstoppable, just like beast, but you're having fun with it. Or it's something like Halloween where it's like a modern day fairy tale. And I feel like that's the stuff that I really respond to the most is when it really is trying to not be artful. Although I think the original Halloween's pretty artful in a lot of ways, but really kind of getting at the bare kind of core of a lot of those kind of older fairy tale like narratives and stories, and using dream logic of those stories and the brutality, and revisiting that, and saying something with a lot of that stuff. A lot of that stuff, as a fan of a lot of grim fairy tales, is really cool to see. And I also like giallos a lot. I think that giallo genre in Italian cinema is really cool. A lot of the stuff is like proto slasher, so I guess I'm more of a proto slasher guy. But a lot of the giallos are really, because it's like a lot of it's about like politics, which is cool, and the dark underbelly of society. So there's a little bit of that noir kind of element to it as well. I'm being really long-winded. But I really I like the slasher genre. It's not my favorite, but like I've come to appreciate a lot of the movies, and a lot of them have become like some of my favorite horror movies. So I'd say it's like right smack dab in the middle.
I definitely agree with the like proto slasher thing too. Uh, because obviously, that's the stuff where it's just people making movies, and then slowly you get people just kind of working the formula, which is any genre really at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It just
Um,
depends on how artistic they are about it. Like I would argue, yes, I am aware that Friday the 13th is like trash and that's the appeal. But I'd
Yeah.
argue you get some movies like Part 6 and Part 4 that have some artistic, like, they wanted to do this. You know what I mean? Especially Part 6. Like, he thought a lot about how Jason would be as a zombie and kind of set the stage for nobody gives a shit anymore. He's a zombie. We can do whatever we want. Uh,
Right. Right.
but anyway, back to Scream.
yeah,
So,
which the other thing with this movie is that while also being a slasher, it's also a murder mystery movie, which most of those aren't. But it kind of takes it back to, in a way, again with proto slashers like that Black Christmas thing, because that's also a mystery.
Winston, what's your
Hmm.
favorite scary movie?
Medea, Boo, Halloween 2.
So let me ask you guys this then, because obviously, my working theory, of course, is that the slashers are very much the '80s version of the Universal monsters.
That's
Um,
fair.
like you could say, I think there's an argument to make Jason is an '80s version of Frankenstein. Michael would be, I don't know. I didn't think this through entirely, but I think it works. Like those were the horror movies we were making at the time of the monster movies, right?
Right.
Would you say
Right.
that Ghostface is a slasher icon,
Yeah, of course.
even though it's
Probably.
different people?
Yeah, because it's the same mask, and well, I mean, in terms of like different people, you can make arguments about Jason's basically a different person each movie until like six. But you got, like the phone voice and stuff is the same actor across them. And like I said, the costume is the same. So
Yeah.
no, absolutely.
So let's start at the beginning of this movie. One of the best, if not the best, openings to a slasher or horror movie ever.
It is really good.
Um, it's just so good.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, and wow, Drew Barrymore was supposed to be the lead too. Like she was the one that was like, "No, I want to be the uh, character at the start,"
well, and
and
that's
everybody
also I
was
think
like, "Oh
another way they
shit, we
kind of
can't do that."
well, and to your point, Austin, I think that's another way it kind of takes it back. Going back to Psycho, I haven't seen that movie yet, which will be changing tomorrow. But the whole thing with that movie, right, is that the most famous person dies like 30
but
minutes
most
in.
famous because I don't really know what Janet Leigh was doing around that time, but she's the protagonist.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Because I feel like that's something you would have done with like an old school slasher, right? Like proto slasher. Get somebody who used to be famous.
It's more like the Nightmare on Elm Street Tina thing, but if Tina died like 45 minutes in or something like
Uh-huh.
that.
That makes sense.
And the phone call thing is really cool because it's that's kind of like taking like kind of Mario Bava Black Sabbath, you know? There's a story. I think in the copy I had, it's one of the first stories, the one on Shutter. It's the telephone, where there's a stalker stalking a woman, and he keeps calling her and asking questions, and as the film goes on, the story goes on and unfolds, it gets more and more disturbing and intense. This is definitely paying homage to that, but in a way that it's also satirizing slasher movie cliches.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, and there's a quote from John Carpenter about how horror is very much of the time it's made, and that, you know, when you make a horror movie, you're looking at the like what the culture fears at like any given time. And I think Scream also fits into that perfectly, where it's like right in that middle ground of there's a lot more wireless phones and stuff, but we haven't had caller ID yet.
Oh yeah,
It like fits perfectly into that window.
absolutely, yeah.
I remember that
And
period vaguely, but I remember it.
yeah, because it's a similar thing with Jaws, where people became afraid of the water, you know, and sharks. Now, you know, here we're afraid of not knowing who's on the other side of the phone.
And
Hmm.
I think part of the brilliance of Scream as well is up until maybe nowadays, like modern day, there's always going to be something terrifying about just answering the phone and somebody you don't know, right? Like you don't know what kind of person that's going to be.
Well, they
Yeah, I
get like
mean, I don't.
spam calls.
Yeah, I only get spam calls, so.
Well, that's why I said up to
Yeah,
like modern day. But even I feel like 10 years ago, you know,
yeah.
you answer the phone to someone you don't know, that could be potentially a ghost face situation. It probably wouldn't be,
Mhm.
but it's a timeless kind of thing,
Absolutely.
and the voice helps tremendously. What's that guy's name?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it definitely makes it.
Roger Jackson. That's it.
That's right, yeah.
So, one of my favorite final girls in the slasher subgenre, because of course, even in a satire, we have to keep that trope. Sydney Prescott. How do you guys feel about Sydney?
I mean, she's probably one of the better ones.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
Hmm.
I think Nev
And well,
Campbell
and
does a really
they.
good job.
Hmm. And Scream's also different in that it's got like the three people that like track. They have like a trinity.
Which they
Yeah.
keep teasing us that one of them's gonna die. I think in every sequel, and then they don't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It'll be
uh,
in five.
I'm guessing. Well, we're gonna talk a little bit about that at the end because I don't know if we've actually talked about it. But um, do you have a favorite of the I guess trio?
It's probably
Um,
Sydney.
Yeah, probably Sydney.
I'm gonna say Sydney. Just
But I do like
because
how they all grow. Like they grow and change. Because I don't feel like Gail is the same in like say Scream 4 as she is in Scream 1.
Mhm. But they keep
Mhm.
rebooting the Gale and Dewey relationship with each movie.
Well, I assume I assume they won't even be together in this new one.
I think we already know that, yeah.
At least it's consistent.
That's true.
We only have one thing for these characters to do, so they're just gonna keep doing it. So I guess we'll also talk about the mask, of course, became very iconic. I feel like a lot of stuff in this movie was instantly just like that's going to become iconic. What do you guys think about the mask?
I mean, the mask more than anything else is just a mask that was in a store. Like it's not like a custom thing that they clearly made.
You know, whoever like sells those masks has got to be loving the fact that they randomly just sold one day to the people making Scream.
Yeah.
And it looks cheap
Um,
too, like in a good way.
Yeah.
the I guess there's some parallels too with Michael Myers because that was the William Shatner mask. You know, it's taking that, but it's pushing that to its most logical extreme where now it isn't just like a random like Halloween mask. Like now it's like this is like a common Halloween costume that you can just buy off the store shelves or whatever, you know,
Hmm.
which I think is kind of interesting to draw those parallels once again.
Yeah, because it's the screamer mask from the painting.
Yep.
Oh, of course. I forgot about that.
Yep.
And I think that makes the killer seem smarter too. Um, which we'll get to the killers in a minute because I think that's what also helps propel this movie is the whole cast I think is good. But do you guys think there's any weak links?
No, I don't think so.
Just trying
Austin
to
might
think.
have an opinion.
No, I can't think of one either.
Not
Okay.
really. It's a pretty well-rounded cast, I'd say. You know,
I
you've
have to
got
say
Shaggy
my
in here. Oh, what's up?
yeah. I think my favorite character in this movie, as much as I love Sydney, at least based on my last viewing, is split between either Jamie Kennedy's character or Matthew Lillard because they're both so good in this movie.
Yeah.
I guess I'm like kind of indifferent on not Johnny Depp. Like out of any other actor, I guess. If I had to pick a weak link, maybe him. I don't know.
That's fair. That's fair.
I could see
Um,
that because his character is just kind of like it's a mystery, but it's also kind of obvious that he's not right. Like his
Yeah,
first
like
line
it's
of
too
dialogue
obvious.
is that he saw The Exorcist and thought of his girlfriend.
Well, yeah, and he's always just like out of breath, like a pervert.
So, Austin,
It's
do
like,
you often watch The Exorcist and think of your crushes?
yeah. When we watched it the other day, I was thinking about it.
I figured. I
Damn.
figured you were.
Specifically on the cross scene.
Damn. Oh my god. Well, sorry. If you unsubscribed for that comment, I'll completely understand. But so we got the trio. We got Rose McGowan before she went crazy. Uh, oh, I'm gonna get canceled for saying that, aren't I? We got
Well,
Matthew
no, 'cause
Lillard.
you're just wrong. She was always crazy.
Oh, was she?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. She was in like two things that I know of. What what
Um,
what is some of your favorite stuff in this movie, Austin?
Um, I don't know. It's got like a rapid pace. Like every time I watch it, they get to the house, and I'm like, oh, we're already here.
It's insane how fast this movie moves.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Like it's very classic. Like
Yeah.
What about you, Doolittle? Anything in particular stand out about this to you?
Well, I definitely do like a lot of the meta commentary for sure.
mhm.
I think that you know, I think the stuff with Courtney Cox's character and Sydney was really strong, for sure, and kind of having that build up to the climax obviously was really cool. Um, and I also really, you know, a lot of the kind of iconic lines in this movie, the formula scene, was hilarious. Um, Matthew Lillard going, "I'll be right back," is really funny as well. Like there's really like there's fun moments like that where I'm like, yeah, like this is funny and like it's a cool movie to see during Halloween season for sure. Um, you
There's
know,
turnaround Jamie.
what's up?
There's turnaround Jamie.
That's probably my favorite meta joke.
That's pretty good, yeah.
That's like the only reason he was cast.
See, I thought that
Yeah,
was the only reason they picked Halloween.
Oh, you gotta pick Halloween.
You don't
obviously,
have
yeah.
to though. I mean, it's a slasher parody. You could pick any of
No, but it literally every single slasher after Halloween is just Halloween. So you have to do Halloween.
No, yeah, and Kevin Williamson was like mentioned that Halloween was like a very specific slasher he was looking at while writing this, so that makes sense.
them. Oh, okay.
Mm.
I haven't
Yeah,
literally looked into the behind the scenes of this movie, but that makes sense.
yeah.
Let's see. We talked about some of the jokes. We talked about the characters. Oh, the most important part of this movie. How do you guys feel the mystery plays out?
I mean, it's like really obvious with the boyfriend character,
Yeah.
and then Matthew Lillard, I guess not as much, but
I love that Matthew Lillard's only like motivation is peer pressure.
yeah.
Yeah. This movie this movie made me realize that Matthew Lillard is my pick for the Green Goblin.
He would be
I
awesome in that role.
like both like ironically and unironically because he's absolutely wonderful in this movie. Like he's great.
He
I
does
want to
Um
see him
insane.
get cursed out by an animated Green Goblin like he did with Shaggy.
yeah, it's awesome. But no, I thought the mystery was pretty obvious, but I also didn't have an issue with that because like I don't know, like it is kind of like a who done it, but like it also it's not necessarily about like that's like the framing device, you know what I mean? Like that's more like or no, it's that's the framework that this movie is working on, but it's not necessarily about that stuff. So I didn't have a huge
I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, "That's too obvious. Like it can't be him, right?"
yeah.
So I wonder if for some people it's that it's so obvious that they end up like being wrong because they think it's too obvious. Um,
Because it plays like a red herring. They're really trying you to be, trying to get you to be like, oh, well, obviously it's that guy. And then it
Yeah.
just is.
all right, so we're running out of time here, so we're gonna keep going. Austin, I did want to ask you because this is another thing we haven't really talked about, and I thought it would fit in since we're talking about a Wes Craven film. Where does Wes Craven fit in on your horror director? I don't know if I would say
Uh,
ranking, but maybe list.
he's not my favorite horror director, but I like Wes Craven.
What about you, Doolittle? Where does he fit in on your list? We'll say.
If I have a list, uh, probably like I don't even know. Jesus Christ. Like probably like smack dab in the middle once again. Um,
Yeah.
he is good, for sure, and a lot of his movies, that I've seen, I have liked. But I wouldn't say he's like. I mean, he's like a master of horror, I guess. You know what I mean? Like that's like he's important. Um, but like I don't know. There's other directors who I like a little bit more than him. You know?
That's fair.
Yeah.
This is where Austin never comes on the show again. I like Wes Craven more than John Carpenter.
Oh, interesting. Oh, he left.
That asshole.
Oh boy. Hello.
I knew you were going to do that. Now, don't get me wrong. John Carpenter is also a genius, but I think I like Nightmare and Scream and People on the Last House or not Last House on the Left. I haven't seen that one yet. People Under the Stairs a little
Hope
bit
not.
more. What do you mean you hope not?
The Last House on the Left is just like pure
That's a
like
grindhouse movie.
grindhouse. Yeah, like
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
it's a rough watch.
Well, but like it's like not. Well, it's also like not fun.
Yeah,
Grindhouse.
no,
Like
it's just like
it's
pure
dark.
sleaze. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I've discovered I like sleaze more than you do in
You
horror
Rob
movies.
Zombie fan.
I am a Rob Zombie fan.
There you go.
So before we'll do our ratings first. I'm gonna give this a 5 out of 5. This is one of my favorite horror films of all time. Um, I think
Shall
everything
give
about it
it
is
a
nearly perfect.
4.
All right, Doolittle. What about you?
I'm gonna give it a 4.
You fucking assholes! No, I'm
I'm
just
sure
kidding.
if oh well.
No, it's all good. So the last thing we're gonna do is, I guess, is a kind of like an epilogue. Doolittle and I talked about this a little bit while we waited for Austin. But I wanted to get Austin's thoughts on Scream 5, and if if they don't have anything to satire, could it be still be a good decent flick if it's a good like whodunit movie?
Uh, my opinion on Scream 5 is why. Uh, it's I don't know. I have no real interest in Scream 5.
Okay, that's
It's
fair.
just I don't know. It feels like Halloween made money. Make another Scream.
See, I would agree with that, but they've been kicking this around since Scream 4 came out.
Well, they've been talking about making another movie since Scream 4 came out. I don't know about this specific one. And also, like, Wes Craven's dead. I don't know if Kevin Williamson's working on it.
He is
Either way, I don't.
involved, but not as a writer.
Yeah, like it's just I don't know. Like I very much have like a who cares kind of mentality with that movie, and like the trailer was just kind of like whatever. I don't know, and calling
Honestly,
it Scream is just
I don't like
uh,
that it's just called Scream. I get it, but I was telling Doolittle this. I got a little excited at seeing Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox on screen together again, and I think it's maybe just because I like those characters so much. I hope it's good, but I'm not like. I think the biggest thing that I'm anticipating is I like those directors. They did that movie Ready or Not, which is wonderful. If you haven't seen it yet, you should watch it. And I know it's on Disney Plus there, unlike a Serbian film.
it is also here.
But those are the two things I think it has going for it. Is I like those characters enough that even if it's even a fraction as well written as the other movies, it could still be good, and it's got competent directors. You know what I mean? But I don't know. We'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see. I
I
hope.
also I don't know. I don't know if they've done enough for me to be like to have faith just because those directors are on. There's too many movies that come out like that where I'm like, oh, like they made this good movie. I'm excited, and then it comes out and it's like complete horse shit.
That's also fair. I don't know.
And the other way around too.
Yeah, you never know with Hollywood. I
Hmm.
uh I don't know but as if you were interested in Scream 5, just as a what if it isn't a satire like the others, but it is still a good murder mystery, do you think that could still save it?
Possibly. I don't know. I don't know that any of the Scream movies are actually like really good murder mystery films, as much as they're just more so like satire. But like if they somehow manage to like get over that and like crafted a really good mystery, maybe.
I think 2 and 4's mystery is pretty good.
Yeah, they're all right. Yeah, they're not like bad mysteries. It's just kind of like just kind of there.
But you would be okay with a Scream without the satire.
I don't really see the point.
That is
Like
also completely
that is the
fair.
entire drive of like what Scream is.
Yeah, that is also
Yeah.
fair. I'm torn on it, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, hopefully it's good. Austin, we've got to at some point got to get together before the year's over to do a Scream commentary. It's 25th anniversary. We also got to do that Halloween commentary we were talking about. You got to stop being on so many YouTube channels, buddy. Focus on this one.
I don't know, I'm all over the place. I have like
Yeah.
no time anymore.
But that is going to be it for us, folks. If you haven't seen this movie, highly recommend it. Thanks, guys, for hanging out, and we'll talk at you later.
Yep.
Yeah,
See
see
ya.
ya.